Well, that's exactly what all these countries wanted to make sure of. They do want to send that humanitarian aid to the Afghan people, but of course they want to do that and avoid that money or that aid getting into the hands of the Taliban. And so there are a few guardrails, even though the very specifics of these guardrails are not exactly clear. But first of all, this resolution is only valid for a year, and after that, they will look at how this aid was sent and was used in Afghanistan to see whether to go forward from that. And there will also be periodic reports by the United Nations on how this aid is transferred to the Afghan people and whether it actually reaches the intended targets, those people who are in desperate need of that humanitarian aid, and whether all the organizations, the workers, really all the international effort is actually making sure that this aid doesn't end up in the hands of the Taliban. But really, the goal and the very tricky balance for the United Nations is to get that aid as quickly as possible to the country, because as you said, the economic situation there is really dire, but they also want to make sure that the Taliban don't get anywhere near. That said, the Taliban are in control, and so they will have to deal with the Taliban, even if it's not directly. So going forward, this is something that they're going to be paying very close attention to. The U.S. Deputy Ambassador to the UN saying that this was not a blank check for any international organization or any international entity, meaning, of course, the Taliban.
Now, separately, the U.S. has today taken steps to loosen its own restrictions, allowing certain entities to sort of sidestep its sanctions on the Taliban.
Exactly. The U.S. Treasury putting out 3 general licenses that really expand on the existing expansions that the Biden administration had already put forward back in September to try to navigate this new situation in Afghanistan with the Taliban in control. And these licenses really just allow a sort of exemption for different categories of workers. One is U.S. Government workers, government contractors, all of those people. There are also all the international organizations, as well as a general license for NGOs who are working in Afghanistan to try to help the Afghan people. And these licenses specifically say that there can be some financial transactions with entities linked to the Taliban or linked to people who are under U.S. sanctions or UN sanctions, but that these are exempt when they are directly aimed at providing that international aid to the Afghan people. So the Americans really showing there that they want to help the Afghan people. Of course, the Americans had frozen nearly $9.5 million of assets for the Afghan central bank back when the Taliban took over in August. And they want to get that aid to actually flow to the country, but of course, making very sure that the Taliban don't get anywhere near. And so these steps are really a sort of expansion. It has to be said that the Americans wanted a sort of narrower resolution at the UN that would have been a case-by-case exemption. That was vetoed by the Russians and the Chinese, and so you're seeing this larger exemption for all of these humanitarian aid elements to go through to the Afghan people, and the Americans trying to make things easier so that aid workers, NGOs, international organizations don't fall under these sanctions when they're trying to help.